Hello, I'm Elle Edwards, the Mindset Geek from GoToElle.com, and welcome back. Now, in today's episode, we are talking about multitasking, and I feel like there should be air quotes around that word multitasking, because really there is no such thing as multitasking. If you've already watched today's story, you'll heard me already tell you, let's call it task switching instead. Now, I can't take credit for that phrase. I didn't invent it. I wish I did. No, I didn't invent it. I read about it in a book. I can't remember which book. I read lots. But they did some actual brain studies. They hooked people up to machines. No animals were harmed in the process. They hooked people up to machines and they watched what happens to the brain when people engage with different types of work and when they multitask. Now let's take an example of you at your desk, getting on with your day, doing a piece of work. Maybe you're writing a blog post or responding to emails. And I'm pulling a face there because I know some people don't like emails. I actually really like emails. The people I get to chat with via email are really cool. But anyway, that's a side issue. Whatever that task is that you are doing in your day, you're getting on there, getting on with it, doing your work. But maybe you're a little bit like most people, and one of the tabs in your browser window is open to Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram, or even worse, all three. And because of the way that we are, that whole fear of missing out, we don't really want to sort of, miss the latest, greatest thing. We see a notification pop up and we can't help ourselves. We find ourselves dragged away. Now we talk about being dragged away as if we're some passive animal in the process. No, we're dragging ourselves away because by having those windows open, we're allowing up those little parts of social media into our day. As an aside, but so that's the whole thing about language. No one's dragging us anywhere. We're doing it to ourselves. But you're there doing your thing, writing your blog post, responding to email, whatever, and then you get a notification on Facebook and you can't help it. You have to go and have a little look. And someone you really like has responded to something in maybe one of the Facebook groups you're in. Maybe you've tricked yourself into thinking that actually you're not going to get distracted by Facebook. You're going to have the news feed eradicator. Yeah, I've got that too. So maybe you never see your news feed. Does that stop you from getting dragged into Facebook groups? No, it does not. Anyway, this notification pops up and someone you really like has added a comment in one of the Facebook groups that you're in. And then all of a sudden you take your focus away from the blog post you were writing, and you're there looking at this comment and you're reading it and you're engaging with it, and then you maybe reply again and then you go back to the task that you were doing. And this idea that you are multitasking between hanging out on Facebook and writing a blog post is a complete fallacy. You can see it quite easily in that example. In the actual moment when you're writing a blog post, you are writing a blog post. That is the task you are doing. And then you go to Facebook. It might happen really quickly. You might flip over and only be there for 20 seconds, but you are switching to a different task. You're not multitasking. You're not writing a comment on Facebook at the exact same time that you're writing a blog post. You're physically impossible, unless you're going to type with two hands or on two different windows or some peculiar thing that you're going to do. But they've actually watched what happens in the brain when you do this. And the context shifting that goes on inside your brain every time you move from one thing to the next. That's the reason why multitasking, say that with air quotes, but why multitasking or task switching is actually not great for us. It's why you can get to the end of the day and find yourself completely exhausted. You feel like you've maybe pushed rocks up a hill all day when all you've actually been done is sat in front of a computer. It's physically draining. That context switching is the reason why. What I mean by context switching, so if you can imagine yourself writing that blog post, and so you're thinking about the words that you're using, maybe you're telling a little story and thinking about the context, and or if you're editing it, word choice, and I use the same word twice in that sentence, and you go back and change it. That's a particular context. And then you go over to Facebook, and even if it's someone you really like and it's a conversation you've been a part of, you still take a few seconds or a few split seconds to re-immerse yourself in that conversation. Now, what was that conversation about? What did she mean? Just getting the context of what's actually going on in that Facebook group. That's context switching. And every time you have to change from one task to the next, your brain has to try and catch up a little bit. And it might not take long. You might think to yourself, oh no, it's okay. It doesn't really doesn't take that much time. It's just, it's just Facebook. There's no just about Facebook. There's no just about social media at all. It's designed and created to hook us in and get us engaged all the time, so we never leave the platform. There's a reason for that. I'm just saying. Every time you take your attention away from one thing to something else, you have to get the context of that. That's just the nature of who we are. That's how your brain works. So I wanted to remind you today and encourage you. I know it's boring advice. I know it's not sexy, but I want to encourage you just to keep this in mind. Now, I'm not suggesting you're going to watch this video and suddenly be magically cured of multitasking. There are times when my mum phones my house in the middle of the day and I'm in the middle of doing something and I have the phone like this and I'm listening to my mum, more air quotes, but also I've got one eye on whatever it is that I was working on the computer. And then all of a sudden I have to go, no, sorry, rewind. I didn't hear what you said. Let me give you my attention, because I catch myself in the act of it. You're sort of passively listening. I know that's a complete contradiction, but you're not really engaged in it. It's actually far kinder to the people around you, plus better for yourself, if you instead give your full attention, consciously choose, this is where my focus is right now today. It's that word focus again. If you tuned in yesterday, we had a whole conversation about that. But it's actually better for you and better for the people around you. So no, it's not exciting, it's not sexy, but I want to encourage you, all the usual boring advice, turn off your notifications, put your phone on mute. And actually when you're with people, when you're engaging in conversation, be in that conversation, put your phone away. I know, it's boring, but it's actually much better and much more fun. Give it a go for yourself. Try it for just a few days and see what difference it makes to your day-to-day reality and how you show up in your day. And as ever, if you'd like help and support around this stuff, particularly thinking ahead to the next month, because it's almost October. Amazing. If you'd like some help and support around this stuff, go to l.com. I have resources for you, and we're going to spend the whole of October dealing with the head junk around getting your book written and published, and I'm really excited to share that with you. In the meantime, I've been Elle from l.com. I look forward to catching up with you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.